So we're ready to light the Monolith. We've got the stainless steel basket that comes with the Monolith. What it also comes with is a divider, which is really useful if you're doing a smaller cook. We can put that in and only fill up one side. It's also useful for doing the 2-zone cooking, and it just separates the areas. If we're just filling it up for doing a really long cook, we don't need to use it. So how do we light it? First of all, don't be tempted to use these. What they can do is these get insanely hot, incinerator hot, and if you're dumping that into the Monolith or any Kamado, ceramic Kamado, that can introduce thermal shock into the ceramic and have a potential to crack the ceramics, and that's not what we want to do. So don't be tempted to use this like you would in a kettle, for example. What you can use are some wall lighters, and once you've put your charcoal in, just bury these a couple of charcoals deep, light them with your blowtorch, and they'll just naturally heat up the charcoal, get them lit as well as the ceramics. It is a slower way to light the Kamados. So what I like to do is use the Monolith monolighter, and once you've filled up the basket with the charcoal, you can just light it up, and it literally takes minutes to get a couple of zones of charcoal lit, and then you can put your lid down and wait for it to come up to temperature. So let's get on with it. So we're ready to light the Monolith now, and so we're going to set up the firebox. It does come with this cast iron grate that goes down here, and then you can use that if you're filling it up to the maximum with fuel. But what we want to use today for the most efficient airflow is the stainless steel basket that the Monolith does come with, and that's just going to sit there on the bottom. What we do want to do, particularly if we are going to use the chip feeder system, is make sure that this segment here is aligned with the hole in the firing, and that means we can feed chips in through and directly on top of the charcoal. So let's get some charcoal in there. So when you're filling up with the charcoal, it's always best to err on the side of caution and put more in than you think that you're going to need. None of it's ever going to go to waste, because whatever you don't use in this cook, you can use in the next cook. What's best to do is fill it up to no higher than the top ring of the charcoal basket, and then that makes sure that the lump wood itself is lower than the height of the deflector plate from the smart grid system. So today we're using the Monolith lump wood, which is actually really good. Really good lump wood, fantastic flavour from that. Word of caution, I don't like briquettes full stop anyway, but particularly in the ceramics, what we don't want to use briquettes which have binders and additives in there, which could get into the pores of the ceramics and impart bad flavours onto your food. So my recommendation is to always use lump wood with the Kamados. So even good quality sustainable briquettes have the binders in there, which once you're burning through will quickly fall to the bottom and clog up your airflow, and you're going to end up having to scoop out all of that ash quite frequently during your cook. With lump wood, that's not needed, and you don't need to do it. In every cook that I've ever done, I don't need to clean it up till the very end. So we're now ready to actually light the Monolith, and what I like to do is use either 1, 2 or 3 lighting points within the charcoal, and that's based on what temperatures that I want to achieve. So if I'm doing a real low and slow at 225 Fahrenheit, for example, I'll just use 1 lighting point, usually right in the middle. If I'm doing something a little bit hotter, more like 275 Fahrenheit, I'll go with 2 lighting points. And if I'm going hot and fast, for example, somewhere around 350 Fahrenheit, I'll use 3 lighting points. Regardless of the number of lighting points that we're using, what we do want to make sure is that one of those lighting points is always in the path of the chip feeder system, so we can add wood to our cook. So if you come in closer, the chip feeder system that I put in here, that demonstrates the path of where you're going to drop in your wood chips. So if we're doing a real low and slow, and we're just like doing one lighting point, I'm going to light here. If we're doing a medium cook, it's at 275-ish, we're going to need 2 lighting points, so I'm going to do one here and then one over here. If we're going hot and fast and we want 3, I'm going to do one here, and one here. Let's get lighting now. And as soon as the charcoal started to catch, what we want to do is start pulling the monolighter away. It's still getting a lot of intense heat on there, but what we don't want to do is damage the monolighter. And as you can see, within only a few minutes, we've got 2 really well lit lighting points. So just for a minute or 2, I'm going to leave those to catch and continue to heat up. And then once I'm happy with that, we're going to close the lid and fully open the top vent and the bottom vent for maximum airflow and draft. Essentially, you're creating your own chimney lighting effect. Air's coming in from the bottom and heating up the charcoal and coming out the exhaust. So we're now hit about 250 Fahrenheit. We're aiming for, on this cook, about 275. So what I want to do now is just start to restrict the airflow a little bit to stop it going out of control. So I'm reducing it now to halfway, top and bottom. And what that should do is slow down the rising of the temperature. So for this cook, we're using natural airflow. So convection heated, we've got the chimney that is sucking air through, and the fuel is starving of oxygen, and it's sucking air in at the bottom. So we've just hit 300 now, so we're really going to start dial it back to bring the temperature back down. Which we've gone for about 1/8 right now on the top, and maybe a centimetre at the bottom. And what we're going to do right now is the temperature's gone higher than what we want, but what we want to do is thermally charge all of the ceramics. So whilst that's now reducing, that heat is going to go into the ceramic and give us 2 styles of cooking. So we've got a convection heat from the airflow that's happening, but also we've got radiated heat that's going to hit from all angles from the ceramic that's thermally charged. So we do have the guru attached, barbecue guru Ultra Q. We'll cover off the use of this one on another cook. Okay, so the Monolith is now pretty much up to temperature. It's also thermally charged, in which the ceramic is hot. You can just touch it, but you don't want to hold your hand there. That's when you know it's ready. So we're going to use a wood chunk today, directly on top of the lit coals, and that's going to last an hour maybe of smoking. And if you want to continue topping up with wood, what we can use is the chip feeder system, and we can, whatever types of chips that you prefer to use. We've got traditional chips or a spice blend version of chips that we've got preloaded and ready to go. So we're going to get this into the Monolith now. Again, we want to push that onto it. We also need to make sure that it's under, the height is going to be underneath where the deflector plate is going to sit. So we're going to and there we go. I'm going to close that up and just let that get itself back up to temperature. So to demonstrate the chip feeder system, I've pulled everything out so you can see how it works. So if you come in closer, obviously preloaded the chip feeder system with the chips that we want for the cook, and simply you put it out, slide it in, and as you can see that's directly above our pre-lit coals, and you simply pull this section out, which dumps that onto the hot coals and immediately starts to smoke. Once you've emptied that, pull it out, close up, and obviously you wouldn't normally have all this out and open. You just do that during the cook whilst your food's still in place.
Smoky olive wood, olive and fire spices mix on the Monolith Kamado. Beautiful flavours.
So you're talking about vent settings and target temperatures for individual vent settings. And of course you can target any temperature that you wish for whatever recipe you're following. But talking about 3 different ones that I would use traditionally: 225 Fahrenheit for a real traditional low and slow, you know, beautiful brisket as the likes. 275, so heading towards hot and fast, but something like a pork butt, perfect for. And 350, something like a whole chicken, is perfect for that. So if you come in closer, I'll show you the settings that I like to use. For 225, I'd set the bottom for just a few mil, 8 mil, something like that. At the top, around a centimetre. And this is up, once you've got it up to the temperature you want, you close it down and then it'll hold at that temperature roughly. For 275, we can go a little bit wider, about 1 inch there. And then at the top, probably about double what we had, maybe around there for 275. And then for 350, we need decent airflow for that to maintain. We're looking about that for 350. There are obviously other temperatures as well. So talking about full roasting, so we target a bit wider again for 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Also pizzas, where we need really good airflow, and we're going to open it up real wide, targeting about 500 degrees for those pizzas with the pizza stone in. And then higher than that, we're looking for searing of your steaks, 600. We need real open, at least half the vent on that, if not a bit more, and then much wider again at the bottom to get good airflow. And then hotter than that, really looking at pyrolytic cleaning, where we're taking the temperature of this up to around 800 degrees and holding it there for 10 to 20 minutes, which is going to turn anything that's inside, any grease or whatnot, to pure ash. So there's a bit of a safety warning. These get up to, as we're talking about, the temperatures, really high temperatures, and what can happen is the air temperature inside gets supercharged and you get fuel that is ready to ignite but hasn't ignited, and all it needs is an extra gush of air for it to ignite, and that could be particles that are coming up in the air as well and would just normally come out into the atmosphere. There's something that's called burping, and what that is essentially lifting the grill, the lid up to about 1 inch for a couple of seconds to let any air in, and if there is going to be a backdraft and ignition inside there, it'll happen whilst the lid is virtually closed, and then you can open up to attend to anything that you're cooking. There has been a few people that have accidentally just opened it up, so I would and have had burns on the hands and face. So do get into the practice of doing it even at lower temperatures, but this really is only an issue at about 400 degrees Fahrenheit and above, but it's the practice so you don't forget. So after a while, you might notice that the monolith starts to have a build-up on the inside of grease and smoke and oils and whatever it is that you're cooking in there. It's going to get a build-up. It's super easy to clean, as I've demonstrated earlier, but every now and again, it's depending on how often you use it, you need to perform what's called a pyrolytic clean. And what that essentially is taking the temperature inside the monolith so hot that any deposits that have happened on the inside are just going to turn to ash and fall away for you to sweep away afterwards. And to do that, you get a really good light of charcoal, and then fully open all of your vents, top and bottom, for maximum airflow. The airflow that you've got by opening this fully is sufficient to be able to perform that. But what you can do, if you've got a build up in the lid itself and maybe it's starting to stick when you're moving it around, you can remove this and then place it on top of your grill on the inside, and then that'll also get cleaned. Once you've spent about 20 minutes in the red zone, what you will want to do is then fully close everything, and then allow the monolith to come down to a cool temperature, so you can take everything out and sweep all the ash away. Also sweep the ceramics as well to make sure all of that ash that you've just burnt off falls down and you can take it out. So now I've shown you how really easy it is to clean the monolith, whether that be from a pyrolytic burn or just from a sweeping it out with a hand brush. We're going to shut down the monolith and snuff out the charcoals, and so we can save those charcoals for the next cook. And it really is as simple as closing both the top and bottom vents completely, making sure that there is no more airflow, whether that be airflow in or airflow out, that can get to the fuel and keep them burning. So now that's happened, within a few hours, because this does hold heat, it will be cool.